Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday afternoon. Hope yours is going well. We've got another Seahawks video to get to today, but first, I don't know how many subscribers I have because this was recorded ahead of time, but shout out to all the subscribers. And special tip of the cap goes to the channel members, especially elite channel members, Y2KHA, Brendon, Mikel, Scott, Todd, VGK Tiger 75, Hasher for MVP, Salacious, Crumb, Ryguy, and Brendon Nelson's haircut. So, a few months ago, you guys may remember I made an expansive all-around video of the situation that the Seahawks had on the left side of their offensive line, tackle and guard, because at that point in time, it was assumed that both those spots would be vacated going into the 2021 season, and I wanted to talk about the ways in which we might address that hole. So, now it's time to go through and do the rest of the positions on the Seahawks and try to figure out how we're going to fill future holes, because certainly we have more holes than just left tackle and left guard. We have holes all over the place with some of these players who may be leaving in the offseason. So we're going to start with running back, because as you take a look at the Seahawks depth chart, running back is the position that probably stands out to you before any other position in terms of an area that we may need a new infusion of talent in. So let's go ahead and break it down real quick why we're talking about running backs, and then we'll talk about running backs. So Chris Carson, free agent, looks like he's on his way out. Carlos Hyde, free agent, we don't know. That leaves us with Rashad Penny, who has not had a healthy season yet and basically didn't play in 2020. Travis Homer, who, until he proves otherwise, is a Jag. And DJ Dallas, who is also pretty much just a Jag until he proves otherwise. And I guess Bo Scarborough. Yeah, that's what we're working with. And while I do think a good offensive system and good play calling could make things work well enough with those pieces in place, Penny, Homer, Dallas, and Bo, I know that this team is likely to feel like they need another running back going into 2021. And assuming we don't retain Carson or Hyde, it seems logical that we would pick up somebody to try to maybe challenge things at the bottom of the depth chart, or maybe even to become the featured running back. So let's dive in and take a look at the players who could be joining the Seahawks running back depth chart in 2021. So we've already kind of gone over the guys we could promote from in-house: Penny, Homer, Dallas. The only guy on that list who has given any credibility to the thought that he could be a starter in the NFL, not even a full-time starter, just a most of the time starter, like a majority of the snaps. We're not even asking for somebody to carry the ball 30 times a game. We just want somebody to start and be able to stay on the field for maybe 55 to 60% of the snaps. The only guy who might be able to do that is Penny. I think Penny could do well in this new offensive system around Shane Waldron. I think Penny might benefit a lot from Waldron's system, but he didn't play last year. He has a history of getting hurt. We don't know what he's going to bring to the table in 2021. We don't know if he still has his burst. So I'm not willing to bet the 2021 season on Rashad Penny being able to take 15 to 18 carries a game. And Homer and DJ have done absolutely nothing to earn any kind of credit in that regard. Maybe Bo Scarborough, but I'm not really seeing anything with him either that tells me he can do anything more than take a couple of carries a game. So in terms of in-house promotions, there are options, but they are not great. So let's just jump into the free agent options and try to figure out how this team could utilize the free agency window to fill the potential need at running back. So we're going to skip past the guys who are going to get paid the big bucks in this offseason, like Aaron Jones and Kenyon Drake, because if you want to pay somebody big bucks, why not just keep Chris Carson, right? So I'm not looking to spend a ton of money on a running back. I'm not looking to break the bank to address our running back woes. So I'm going to make a quick detour on the one semi-big name who I would consider bringing in, if only because his situation has prevented him from being a likely target for a massive contract, and that is Gus Edwards of the Baltimore Ravens. He's been there for 3 seasons. He's turning 26 this year, And as you can see, he has yet to have a season where he's had more than 160 touches, and he's been very productive in all 3 seasons. 700 yards, 700 yards, 700 yards. He's getting in the end zone. He's a good running back. And the only reason why he hasn't been having these 1,000-yard seasons is because he doesn't get enough carries to do it. He has a yards per carry average of over 5 in each season he's played so far. And if you take a look at his PFF grade from 2020, it's excellent, almost 86. And the reason why I would entertain Gus Edwards is because, well, as the good people at Spotrac have already broken down for you, he's not overly likely to break the bank this offseason the way that guys like Kenyon Drake and Chris Carson and Aaron Jones are going to. Spotrac projects him to get about 3 years, $10.5 million, which is workable for a running back in the NFL right now. And if you factor in the fact that the cap is going down, a player like a Gus Edwards might see even less. He might get 3 years, $9 million. So we have here an underrated, very productive player whose situation has simply prevented them from being able to become a star. And because of that, they're not going to get paid like they're one of the best running backs in the league. So if we're going to get one of the higher profile guys, I would consider Gus Edwards for a deal like this. But let's keep going. Let's take a look at some of these other free agents to be. Let's go past some of the guys who are not appealing for one reason or another. And let's take a look real quick at Mike Davis, our old buddy. Now, you guys know that I am generally not a big fan of getting the band back together, going back to guys who were good for us in the past. I don't like that mentality. I think that's a very weak mentality to have. I think the unwillingness to do things differently and try new things is a problem. But Mike Davis would just be a backup for us, and we know that he's capable of being a capable backup. Capable of being a competent backup for us. So if you take a look at what he did in 2020 for the Panthers, he played quite a bit, was reasonably productive, had 59 receptions, which is a dimension to his game that I don't think any of us thought that he had. Now, when you're filling in for Christian McCaffrey, that's going to be part of your game, but yeah, he was very productive through the air. He was reasonably productive on the ground. He's only going to be 28. He doesn't have a ton of mileage on him because he's never had a full load. Last year was the closest he ever came to a full load. And he should have enough left to turn in a respectable season as a backup in 2021 for us, if that's the direction we choose to go. His PFF grade in 2020 was 75, so there's every indication that Mike Davis could still be a capable NFL running back. He could be a spot starter. He could be a very quality backup, and you could probably get him for something along the lines of 1 year, $2.5 to $3 million. Not very much money. Again, cap went down. These guys are just kind of SOL. All right, let's keep going. Let's look at another free agent that we might pick up this offseason, Jamaal Williams. This is a name that a lot of Seahawks fans have been saying in recent days, recent weeks. The backup running back from the Packers, who has had a fairly productive career, is a free agent, and it seems likely that if the Packers keep Aaron Jones, they won't be able to keep Jamaal Williams. So let's take a look at Jamaal Williams. He's been with the Packers for 4 years, and every year he's been a respectable backup. His efficiency has improved a lot the last 2 years. He's, turning in respectable yards per attempts. He's a good receiver out of the backfield, at least 200 receiving yards every year. It seems like he has a little bit of the full package and could be just what this offense needs as a backup. The fact that he's a great pass catcher is a nice bonus too, and his PFF grade from last year was a very nice 73.2. So you might have to spend 2 years, $8 million for a guy like a Jamaal Williams. I don't think he's going to be in line for anything big, but you are going to have to give him a little bit more than you would a guy like a Mike Davis, but it might be worth it. This guy has some upside. This guy has some good stuff. This guy has proven himself, and the fun part is he doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on his body, and he might just be poised to break out if given the right opportunity behind a running back who isn't as good as Aaron Jones. All right, one more guy, and then we're going to break on over to the draft. The final way we could fill the running back hole. So if you scroll down a little bit more, we've got one last name here, Malcolm Brown of the Rams. The only reason why we're looking at Malcolm Brown is because we just hired the Rams passing game coordinator, so he may want players that he's familiar with. There's really no other good reason to take a look at a guy like a Malcolm Brown, though, because if you take a look at what he's done for the Rams over the past 6 seasons, last year was his best year by far, 400 yards, 4.1 yards a carry, 5 touchdowns. Never been much of a receiver out of the backfield at all, which is not that appealing to me if you take a look at what I want this offense to turn into in 2021. And he completely lost his role when Cameron Akers became the featured back in LA. So this is only really an option because there's some familiarity with Shane Waldron. But I don't particularly care for this. I just wanted to touch on it briefly. His PFF grade, by the way, was actually not good. 57.1. That's not good for a running back. So that's what I see from free agency. Those are the 4 guys that stand out to me. They could be had for a reasonable price. I mean, Malcolm Brown might get $2 million a year at most. 1 year, $2 million at best. But I think they all have at least some degree of upside, and it makes sense. So if we decide to address running back in free agency, I would like one of those 4 guys. There are a couple others that would be good, but these 4 stood out to me for one reason or another. And with that, let's take a look at the final way we can fill this hole in our roster. That is the 2021 NFL Draft. So first of all, if you take a look at our drafts this upcoming April, we have a 2nd-round pick, 56th overall, a 4th-round pick, which should be close to the bottom of the 4th, 5th-round pick, same deal, 6th-round pick, same deal, 7th-round pick, same deal. So right away, you can see that the cupboard's a little bare, and I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. It is very unlikely I will be okay with a scenario that involves us using this 2nd-round pick on a running back. Give me a cornerback, give me a left tackle, give me a left guard, give me something else. Do not give me a running back. So while I will acknowledge it's a possibility, and while there might be some running backs at this spot that I would like having, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about any running back who's going to be picked in the top 100 because we're just not really going to have a chance to get them. So with that in mind, let's jump on over to thedraftnetwork.com, which has been my go-to for draft prospect information to this point. And let's see who might be in range for the Seahawks when their pick comes up in the 4th round and on. So I took a brief look at some of these names, and the 3 guys who caught my eye, guys who we could draft, guys who I think have some exciting upside, guys who I think would make sense and would, get me excited to see what they could do as rookies. Well, we're going to start with Chris Evans down here. He's currently ranked as Draft Network's 146th overall draft prospect, which puts him as somewhere in the 5th round, maybe late 4th at best. But he's had an interesting road to through college football. He doesn't have a lot of mileage on him. He played at Michigan, pretty productive. He's flexible. He was just one of those guys that as I was reading about and looking up, he just stood out to me for some reason as somebody who I would like to pick in the 5th round and see what we can get out of it. The next name that caught my eye is actually the next name on this list, Chuba Hubbard, and he's a guy who may very well fall to the bottom of the 5th or maybe even 6th round as of right now. And guys like this, they can go undrafted. You just don't know. So Chuba Hubbard, the Oklahoma State running back, very productive in college football. I like his ability to play in a zone-heavy scheme, a lot of zone blocking. It sounds like the kind of thing that Shane Waldron's new offense may very well want to implement. But I just feel like he would be a good fit for what we're trying to do here. He's not somebody who wants to pound it up the middle all the time. He's a guy who likes to run to the outside and make people miss, it seems like. So that's all very appealing to me. And the final name that caught my eye is somebody who might be better than, just another guy, and somebody who we could reasonably get would be Puka Williams of Kansas. I was reading about him, and there's just something about his supposed speed and his flexibility and his ability to play on what sounds like 3rd down. I just something jumped out to me there. I like fast running backs. I like guys who can really just hit the accelerator and go. And this guy seems like he has a little bit of that. And you could probably get him in the 6th, if not the 7th round. So we're going to keep an eye on these players and their draft stocks as the weeks go by to the draft. But as of right now, if we decide to address our running back concerns through the draft, those would be my 3 guys. There are other guys who might be good too, but there was something about them that just didn't stand out to me, so I decided I would skip over them. Chris Evans, Chuba Hubbard, and Puka Williams. And that's how I would take a look at the running back position this offseason. Maybe you just fill it in-house. You certainly do have some guys who have potential, but I would definitely consider, if you lose Carson and Hyde, you bring in somebody in free agency, or you spend a mid to low round draft pick on one. With that, I'm going to get out of here. Peace out, go Hawks. We will continue to go through the other positions of need for the Seahawks. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know who you guys want. Let me know how you would address the running back position this offseason. And see you guys in stream later tonight.